Progress Sky presents a Clarity Media production.
So now we need to hurry from it up.
Just wait, you will see right now.
Ma, I hope that's your story. I love adventures.
Well, I love how they promote we local talents and artists.
So what I'm gonna wait for now.
Gather the family, get some snacks. This the chill time. This the family time. This the
Story time!
Hi, good night, everyone. Welcome back to Storytime. Progress Kayo and Clarity Media are looking for potential animators, actors, writers, dancers, and painters. Tonight at 7 p.m. was the launching of No Lie, song done by Blacka and Sean Tucker. Check it out on the Progress Kayo YouTube channel. The 22nd February, the Progress Kayo show will be live on Maximum Radio Station and TV here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Sector 7 for its monthly performance show. Well, guys, tonight we have two wonderful tales to tell tonight. It's called Alox and Tata Duhende. We will be starting with the Alox. The Alox comes from the Maya people of Belize. We still hear about these mythical creatures whenever you hear the older heads of people talk about the guard spirits, which people put to guard their property and family. It is overdue to bring you something from the ancient Maya tradition, as they are the indigenous people of this country, Belize, and is part of the world. So without further ado, enjoy a part of the rich heritage of Belize. Alox. Alox. To create an alox is difficult and prolonged work, needing much knowledge and proper support of offerings and prayers and secret beings who govern the life on earth and the water and in the air. The primary role of the alox is to guard ancient archaeological sites and their surroundings. His role as protector extends to man as well, and he punishes those who are lazy and neglectful of their duties. He is a moral watchman of the villages, keeping an eye out for wrongdoing. The Alox is a dominant character among the Yucatec Maya, and is spoken of mainly in villages such as San Antonio and San Jose Socots in the Cayo district, and San Victor, Pachacan, Progreso, and in the Corozal district. Stories of him are told at the Ambergris as well. He's also referred to as Duencilo and Donato and his brothers. Although only 1 foot high, the Alox has the appearance of a robust, arrogant Maya. When solemn rituals were still a part of daily life among the Maya, milpa owners who wanted someone to take care of their lands often request an Alox from the priest of the village. After the owner had made a suitable payment, oldest and most knowledgeable man in the Maya community created an alox through a complicated process. For 7 Fridays, he molded an intricate clay figure, kneading into the clay the fluids and flesh of various animals, so the Alox would possess the finest qualities of forest creatures. On the first Friday, he formed the legs and the feet of the Alox, mixing in the clay the blood and the ground legs of a lizard, so his steps would be light and silent, and the flesh of a deer, so his legs would move swiftly and tirelessly. On the second Friday, he added to the clay mixture rainwater, which had been cooled in the night air for 9 nights. And with this clay he formed the stomach, adding a small portion of tender corn to it. This would ensure that the Alox would not be gluttonous and that his appetite would be small. On the third Friday, the priest formed his thorax and his heart. He took great care to saturate the heart with the blood of a dove, so the Alox would be tender and devoted to his master. With blood from the jaguar, so he would be brave and fierce and unforgiving to his enemies, and would possess a heart that would not feel fear, sadness, or envy. On the fourth Friday, the priest formed his arms and hands, using the blood and flesh of a boa constrictor and a monkey, guaranteeing that the Alox would be strong and agile. On the fifth Friday came the most intricate part of the entire process, the creation of the neck and head. The Alox had to be very talented and cunning. His throat and mouth should be able to imitate the voices of all the animals in the forest, and he should understand the languages of many races. His eyes would be formed using the pupils of an owl, so he could see even the smallest detail on the darkest of nights. His ears would contain fluids that would make his sense of hearing sharp enough to take in songs from the soil on which he stood. And his nose would be equipped with a keen sense of smell. These tasks were of the utmost importance, because if anything went wrong here, the personality of the Alox could become completely different from what was intended. On the sixth Friday, the figure was baked in a clay oven over a fire fed by the wood from the ceiba and guanacaste trees. Even the wood was expected to instill qualities into the Alox, making him have endurance and resistance to the harsh conditions in which he would have to cope in the forest. On the seventh Friday, the little figure was complete, and the priest dressed himself in precise robes and took the Alox to the temple, where its future owner waited. In a sacred ritual, the priest called upon the gods and breathed life into the clay figurine. Then he dressed the Alox in rich clothes and jewels and handed over to the owner, who took the clay image, which bore a mocking and haughty expression, to his home to introduce him to his friends and family members. He then placed the figure in a small cave or in the hollow of a tree trunk in the forest, dictated the services that he expected from the Alox, and promised his offerings in return. After the owner had left and night had fallen, life entered the figurine. It moved its limb and flexed its muscles and became the efficient, effective Alox. When not guarding his owner's milpa and other property, the Alox mischievous self comes to the fore as he plays the forest, climbs trees, bathes in streams, and explores caves. Even then, his role of protector shines through as he befriends animals in order to convince them not to harm his owner's belongings. During the day, the alok sleeps in caves, in ruined temples, or in the forest, and at night he stands guard over every corner of his owner's property, preventing intruders from entering the milpas. Intruders are warned away by strange whistling songs and stoned if they do not retreat. The more the intruder advances, the more intense the punishment. And on the following day, the person wakes up with a high fever which lasts for several days. Extending his services further, the alok prevents animals from destroying his owner's property, and if his owner has a poor harvest, the alok exchange bad fruit from his owner's milpa for the better produce from a nearby milpa. Then, as compensation, he ensures that owners of these adjoining milpas receive valuable objects or are able to capture abundant game while hunting. The owner's obligation to the alok involves providing him with a corn drink and tortillas every Friday. He must carry these into the forest adjoining the milpa, and if he fails to do so, his entire family comes down with a fever. He is also expected to conduct specific rituals when he leaves his property permanently or when a death occurs. The alok, as a social obligation to the village, ensures that each resident is kept from being lazy or negligent. He rattles dishes in the kitchen to remind women that they are neglecting household duties, and encourages men to work and not relax too much. His behavior in the village sometimes prompts fear. When the woman hears the songs of dogs barking or horses whining or of whistling, they know the alok is nearby, and their first instinct is to light a candle or a lamp and ensure that their children are still safely tucked in bed. Another service of the alok is to ensure that visitors to the Maya mounds and archaeological sites do not desecrate them or steal any artifacts. As with all folklore characters, the alok has prompted many stories. Legend has it that people often find a small, finely carved clay figurine by the roadside. They take it home only to find it missing the following day because it has returned to its original place. Those who have heard of the alok leave the effigy alone. Those who do not and insist on taking it home begin to suffer physical discomfort and have unpleasant nightmares. The figurine mischievously returns to its original place each time. Hunters and chicleros have also told stories of finding in the forest miniature dwellings so small that they are sure only an alok could be living there. The alok is seen by humans mostly as a still figure, but rare sightings of the alok in its living form have been reported. Some hunters claim to have heard the growls and screams of wild animals, and on turning on their hunting lamps have only spotted the body of a husky dwarf. On a night of a full moon, the figure of a little man could be seen dancing on temples in ancient Maya sites. Persons in milpas have seen a dwarf beckoning to them. Those who have seen the alok become fever-stricken and cannot be cured until an offering is made at the spot where he was seen. It is said that a sleeping alox can be destroyed if one breaks it into pieces, covers it with stones. The alox is almost always on guard, however, and the chances of finding one dormant are slim. So people will sometimes build a small thatch hut and place a bed inside to attract the alox. Over the bed, they tie a large stone using a strip of bark from the maho, a tree whose strong bark is often used as rope. Eventually, however, the maho rots and the stone will fall on top of the sleeping alox. Okay, there you have it, folks, the tale of the alox. Okay, as you can see, the images used are not ours. We got most of the images from Google. Hence the reason we are asking that if there's any local animators or painters, if they would like to join our force, that way we will be able to use our own, our own drawing. Okay, guys, so at this moment, I'll be taking a short commercial break and I will be back with Tata Dohende.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Santelina, Kayo.
Me say we are for hustle hard, man, and we not. Struggle is real and we in this together.
No time for your sleep, not for how the thing set. No time for your sleep.
That is top of the night, Dylon. Salute to you.
Always tag them and your friend. Stop up, wanna smoke your life just like a hot grabber. Wanna fling your tongue, what them? I go shut at all. Hold them got a lot of guns and blocks them off
Okay, guys, we're back. Okay, with a little reminder that No Lie from Blacka and Sean Tucker is out now on YouTube. Go and check it out. Like, comment, and subscribe to the Progress Kaya on YouTube.
When you feel like giving up, don't. When you thinking about giving up, don't. When it look like you ain't gonna make it, keep going. When they tell you you can't, come on, man, who are they? When they tell you you're not gonna make it, don't believe them, man. Don't believe them. You got to be relentless. Don't give up. Don't give up. When you feel like giving up, don't.
Christmas, remodeling,
Carpentry, masonry,
RJs are here for you.
pressure washing, paint after,
RJs is here.
whether building or remodeling.
Or maybe you just need that Christmas paint job.
Yes, we know RJ's is here for us.
Play a tune, Blacker, play a tune.
Okay, welcome back again, guys. Today we have a famous story for you all tonight. I'm going to speak about the old Mandimon, or commonly the Tata Dohende. It is said by the older people, not in this account, but each tribe tell their own tales. of this mythical creature. It is said that he was once in heaven and was one of the 7 most important angels. Up in heaven, he was in charge to look over the earth and all its creatures like a guardian, so that not to only animals but also to children. According to oral tales of the fall of Satan, he deceived many to join him, and Tata Dohende was one soul was cast down to earth ever since he was doing the opposite in heaven. Instead of guarding animals and children, he instills fear in both animals and children. These stories are from the book Characters and Caricatures of Belizean Folklore. And with that said, let us dive into one of Belize's most famous folklores, Tata Dohende. Tata Dohende. First thing them do when them catch you is to wring off your big thumb. He is well known among old and young, and stories about him are told among the Creole, East Indians, Garinago, and Maya. One of Belize's most infamous folklore characters, Tata Dohende, gets his name from Tata, the Maya title for old man or grandfather, and Duende, Spanish for dwarf. Descriptions of him are as numerous and varied as the places in which he has been seen. Although most accounts say he is about 3 feet tall and wears a wide brim hat, he is often described as a short old man with a white beard, and residents of San Jose, Socotte say he dresses in white satin. Sometimes he wears a big red hat and animal skins for clothing, carries a machete or a knotted stick, and smokes a pipe. He has also been seen wearing red or brown shirts and pants, a big straw hat, and pointed boots. Tata Dohende is also almost always described as stockily built, with a hairy body and an ugly mean face. He is fond of roaming in pastures and in pine ridges, but his home is usually in a dark cave in the depths of the forest or in a secret underground cavern. Sighting of him by the hillside during the Lenten season, especially on Good Friday, are very common, and he is also believed to appear on rainy days. His approach is heralded by a whistling song, much like that of the wind, and sometimes by the fragrance of a flower locally called Dama de la Noche, or Lady of the Night. Essentially a diurnal creature, he will appear suddenly out of the bushes to watch you silently and curiously without making any threatening moves. While Alan Robinovitz was tracking jaguars in the Coxcomb Basin, he recalls being alone in the forest on a dark night when rain clouds covered the moon and the stars. He felt that the forest was usually still, and a sudden chill ran down his spine. Though frightened, he forced himself to stay and wait for the jaguar. After half an hour of waiting, he could no longer ignore his fear and decided to head back to camp. His truck had been facing the forest, and he turned on the headlights, getting ready to swing the vehicle toward the road. In the light, he saw a strange sight: a small man, about 3 feet high, with his left palm signaling him to stop. Panicking, he turned his vehicle around, raced down the road. After driving a while, he began to feel he was letting his imagination get the better of him, and decided to return to the site. All he saw was bush, but he was unable to brush off his uncomfortable feeling, and throughout the night kept wondering if he had actually seen the duende, about which workers at his camp had told him. The role of Tata Duende varies as much as his appearance as the traditional guardian angel of all animals and persons in the forest. He always looks out for them. A kind creature by nature, he protects both animals and humans, often feeding, protecting, and curing persons hurt or lost in the forest. He is a close friend to the animals and punishes hunters who kill more game than they need to. This aspect of his personality has given him the name Dueño del Monte, or owner of the forest. The Garinalugu call him Duendo and say he is also the guardian of hidden treasures. To schedule a meeting with him so he can reveal his hidden treasures, one can carve a message on a pine tree. Meetings are generally at noon, and those wanting Duendo to tell them where gold or other treasure is hidden must bring along a white rooster and a white sheep on which to make the offering. To further persuade him to reveal his hidden treasure, they can promise him their firstborn. Tata Duende can be a trickster as well. He mischievously rearranges articles in people's homes, plays with their laundry, and rattles their dishes. While they are asleep, he paints lines on their faces or shoots off their guns to scare them. He has been known to tie old tin cans to the tails of mules and ride the mules, creating a disturbance in the village. He also pinches horses and plats their manes in the quiet of night, causing them to act wild for a day or two. He will sometimes steal dogs, which he probably eats since his diet consists of brown meats and fruits. In the Belizean Stories district, Tata Duende has assumed properties similar to those as Sesamito. He is said to have no thumbs and will wring off the thumbs of anyone who falls prey to him. The only way to stop this from happening is to hide your thumbs in the palms of your hands as soon as you see him. He then takes an immediate liking to you and will teach you to play his silver guitar or any other musical instrument you wish to learn. Like Sesamito, Tata Duende is said to have his feet on backwards and leaves deep footprints and have pointed heels. Tata Duende possesses a malevolent side, which surfaces when anyone teases him by imitating his whistle. Then he carries them away, especially if they are children. Some say that he can make them invisible, and only the shaman, a Maya prayer man, can make them visible again. When in his state of vexation, he can make anyone who sees him or is seen by him immobile, speechless, and fever-ridden for many days after the encounter. He is feared by hunters, for if he sees them carrying a gun or a shovel in the forest on Fridays, he will chop off their heads and use them to decorate his dwelling place. He has a reputation for luring people into his cave if he sees them destroying the forest. But he can also convince innocent children to follow him. Stories of children who have been enticed into the forest by Tata Duhende and then abandoned are told very often in rural Belizean communities. One such story is that of two girls who were attracted to an area where beautiful flowers were in bloom. They had seen the flowers in the forest not far from their home and were surprised because they could not recall ever having seen them before. The colors and fragrance of the flowers were too appealing for the girls to ignore. Even though they felt that something was not quite right about the garden, they were unable to resist going toward the field of flowers. And once there, they realized that it was the mischievous Tata Duhende who had used the flowers to tempt them into the forest. As he stood before them, one of the girls remembered the stories her mother had told her about Duende, and she quickly made the sign of the cross so he would run away. A young boy's encounter with Tata Duende took place one afternoon when he was sitting on his back veranda. He recalls seeing a little man with a long beard and a big hat standing at the front of the steps and beckoning him to come near. The little boy knew he should not follow the man, but he was unable to stop himself from doing so. He walked behind the man for a long time until they were deep in the forest, when the boy suddenly felt a sharp pain in his left feet. He looked down and realized he had stepped on a thick branch that had fallen from a nearby tree. Not wanting to lose sight of the little man, he looked up, but Tata Duhende had disappeared. Sometime later, the boy found himself back in his house and could not remember how he had returned. Another story tells of Rosalita, who was young, beautiful, and well liked by everyone in her village. When she mysteriously disappeared one day, many villagers felt the loss, and some months later were excited to learn that one of the residents had spotted Rosalita near his house. Their excitement wandered, however, when they were told that she had been seen in the company of Duende, and a child who was half human and half Duende. To learn anything more, the villagers had to wait until Duende appeared again, and then when this finally happened, they were able to take hold of Rosalita. She was distressed and spent days sobbing for the child. The villagers, realizing then that the child belonged to Rosalita and Duende, began to worry that Duende would somehow take revenge of them for having taken away his wife. They waited helplessly to see whatever wrathful action Duende would take. One evening, one of the men came running through the village with a large package wrapped in banana leaves, and everyone crowded around him to see what he was carrying. He unwrapped it, and immediately everyone saw what Duende had done. Half the body of a young girl was before them, the human half, and it appeared that the father had kept the hairy half. They took the body to the doctor and were astonished to see that as soon as they put the body down, it became whole. A beautiful young girl sat upright on the table, and the only signs that indicated she was not completely normal were her deep green eyes and a strange tuft of hair on her forehead. Several items can be used to scare Tata Duhende away, and the method used varies with the situation. When one sees him in person, making the sign of the cross is the simplest way to make him run away. Some legends tell that he can also be shot using cartridges made from silver 50-cent pieces. If Tata Duhende is present in the house, he usually cannot be seen. One family from San Antonio said that they knew he was visiting their house regularly because they would often hear guitar music late at night and in the mornings and find their guitar in a different place from where it had been left the night before. They also noticed that a small blackboard they kept on the table would be moved to the very edge of the table, and although it was precariously balanced, it would not fall off. One night they placed a mirror in the living room where they knew Tata Duhende conducted most of his mischief, and they believed that after seeing his reflection that night, he never returned to their home. Lighted candles and the Bible are also used to keep Duhende away. Sometimes he will even flee when he hears someone playing guitar music. The mischievous dwarf enjoys receiving food as well, and making an offering to him is one way of ensuring that children he has kidnapped are returned safely. Okay, guys, just a small reminder that Progress Kayo and Clarity Media is looking for potential animators, actors, writers, and Belizean authors. Well, guys, I hope you had enjoyed this show tonight. I'd like to shout out to our viewers, Miss Victoria Castellanos, my husband, Mr. Raspat Thompson. Thank you all for joining in with Clarity Media and with Storytime. And look out for us next week. We have a surprise for you. So don't miss out. Let's remember, guys, you can go on YouTube. You can like and share. Leave a comment if you love what you're seeing. And I'd like to say once again, guys, good night with your show tonight. I am Cassandra Fuller Thompson. Have a blessed and beautiful night. See you guys again next week. Bye-bye.